Well, obviously, if you don't maintain your site, if you don't keep it up to date and relevant, search engines are going to see that. And
Hmm.
your visitors are going to see that. So it will have a negative effect on your site. And
I
then
see.
2, 3 years in, they go, well, our site doesn't perform anymore. We need a new one.
Hmm.
Or they just slowly let it die and keep it online forever.
Hmm.
Both are not very good for the health of the web as a whole.
From building bridges in support to leading the charging community strategy, today's guest embodies the heart and soul of WordPress. Welcome to WP Legends. I'm Gautam, co-founder of Seahawk Media. Today, I'm honored to host Taco Worthenschott, affectionately known in the ecosystem as Taco Wordo, a beloved connector in the WordPress world and a true generalist who makes complex things feel simple. I've had the privilege of joining him at WordCamps over the years, including Basel, where our conversations often stretched past the closing time. Taco spent 10 plus years at Yoast, growing from customer support to lead community and relations, a journey that redefined how a product company can value human connection over algorithms. Since late 2024, he's been directing community and partnerships at Emilia Capital, where he now is helping Progress Planner, a tool to gamify website maintenance with points, badges, and delightful habits. Today, we'll explore how Taco turns service into community stewardship, what it makes to build belonging at scale in WordPress, and why being a web generalist is actually a superpower. Taco, welcome to WP Legends.
Thank you so much for having me, and what a wonderful intro.
The
Absolutely
pleasure.
well done.
I see. I've known you for so many years. I've seen you at the booth for Yoast, and then I saw you in Basel with Progress Planner, and we looked
Yeah.
into it. We spent some time on it. So yeah, but I want to know your start of journey because I've never discussed that with you. I've never had the pleasure of going back to your roots 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So let's start from there.
So the most relevant part starts in 2013,
Hmm.
uh, when my then current job, or my then current boss, decided that despite me living on the other side of the country, the
Hmm.
travel time I had to the office every day would no longer count as working hours. And I was desperately looking for something else, because basically I was spending 14 hours a day on work, commuting and at work. And then there was a little company. I'd never heard of it before, but they did a job ad that said hire for talent and attitude, train for skill. We're looking for someone who can be our first developer. And I was like, okay, I have no skills as a developer. I was studying computer science at the time,
Hmm.
but barely started. And I was pretty sure that my attitude would be fine. And talent, no idea. So I was going to let them be the judge of that. That little company turned out to be Yoast,
Hmm.
and it wasn't a little company. Well, there was only 6 people, but it was a plugin for WordPress with over 1 million installs at the time. And when I applied, I had no idea about its scale and definitely no idea about how big it would become in the years after. So yeah, that
Wow.
was the very start of the
So you
story.
were hired as a developer though. Then you moved
Yes.
into customer. You pivoted into customer head of relations like immediately, or it was like after a few months.
So, like I said, they were hiring for talent.
Mm.
We learned within 3 months that I had no talent as a developer whatsoever. Worst hire ever as a dev.
Wow.
But before joining, I was working in customer service, and I liked that interaction with people. I had enough of the sort of basic knowledge to read the code and to really help people use Yoast SEO on their website. So
Mm.
I pivoted within like 3 months to customer support. At
Gotcha.
first, being the only person doing customer support at Yoast, and then
Wow.
quickly we started forming a team because the plugin, well, grew fast.
Oh yeah, yeah, I exploded everybody. I think. See, you've been dancing with WordPress way longer than I have been also. So I know and totally get it. But tell me, like, when is that when you started going to WordCamps, started evangelizing Yoast? Was it like a few years after that? And did you start with local WordCamps? How did
Yeah.
that happen? Because you're such a familiar face. Everybody knows you in the community. Needless to say that. So like when did that?
Yeah.
How did that happen? I'm more curious about that part.
So that's actually a fun story because basically on my first day at Joost,
Hmm.
Joost de Valk told me, "Hey, there's a conference happening in Leiden in the Netherlands. It's called WordCamp Europe,
Hmm.
and I won't be there for the full event, but I want you to be there on behalf of Joost."
Okay.
Uh, th- that was about 6 weeks in for me. So
Okay.
I did not have any prior experience with WordPress.
Okay.
I did not have any prior experience with SEO. I was
Hmm.
sent there as this is our new developer. And that's basically where I learned that Yoast was a big deal. Both the person and the plugin, then
Hmm.
still called WordPress SEO.
Of course.
And it's where I sort of got introduced into the WordPress community because I had no idea there was such a thing. But apparently, if you are kicked out of a bar at 4 a.m. in the morning, you make a lot of friends in the
You do.
meantime.
You do
Um,
indeed.
yeah, and so people like Brad Williams and quite a few of the core committers at the time were there, and we're hanging out until late in the evening, and that sort of kick-started my entry into the WordPress community.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So moving to then Amelia Capital, Amelia Capital, you now focus on like digital tools, projects, a lot of things under the umbrella. And
Yeah,
now you are focused on only Progress Planner, is that correct?
mostly, yes. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. I
Um,
saw the demo and I believe there's no revenue model right now. It's just about exposure to the world. Is that correct?
Mostly. So we do have a pro version, but
Okay.
right now our focus is entirely on the free version to get
Hmm.
the word out and to basically get people to realize that there's more to owning a website than
Hmm.
just getting it online initially,
I
because
think I
that's
think I
the
think
problem we saw.
I think you're doing the right thing because I think WordPress needs mass adoption and make things very easy. For example, like I was speaking with a buddy of mine the other day, and he's trying to launch
Mhm.
an e-commerce store for selling t-shirts and stuff. And he said Shopify is a no-brainer. WordPress, I have to do this, find a developer, do this. It's kind of tricky still
Yeah.
for people who've never used WordPress for the very first time. So I think in your case, you're trying to sort that big problem out with Progress Planner is
Yeah.
even more mass adoption, I would say that.
Yeah, so and especially what we see is that people spend a lot of time and energy building a
Mm.
website. So
Mhm.
initially they reach out to an agency or they put in the effort and build themselves, although that seems to be less and less lately. But they spend a lot of time and effort getting every text right on their page, getting all the images right, everything. And then the website's launched and it's online and they stop doing anything with it. They
True.
just allow it to exist and that's about it. And over time they will go, okay, but my site doesn't really perform. It doesn't work. It doesn't get me new customers. Well, obviously, if you don't maintain your site, if you don't keep it up to date and relevant, search engines are going to see that. And
Hmm.
your visitors are going to see that. So it will have a negative effect on your site. And
I
then
see.
2, 3 years in, they go, well, our site doesn't perform anymore. We need a new one.
Hmm.
Or they just slowly let it die and keep it online forever.
Hmm.
Both are not very good for the health of the web as a whole because
True.
the more stale websites there are, I mean, search engines will keep indexing sites, meaning they spend a lot of resources and thus a
True.
lot of energy, a lot of power on basically looking at dead things. And that doesn't help anyone. So if we can help people stay active on their website and make sure that their website remains relevant over the years And even if we can extend the life of a website from like 3 to 4 years, that would be a huge win for the web. And so
Hmm.
that's what we're aiming for, to help people keep their site relevant.
I think that's a good one. I think you have you have a blog, the metaphor, a community and a metaphor. You talk about cracks in the WordPress ecosystem. So is
Yeah.
it, would you call it one of the healing steps you're taking, kind of?
Yes. Yeah. So what I've been doing is comparing a website to a garden.
Okay.
I mean, I'm I love having a garden with flowers
Mhm.
and everything. I
Okay.
absolutely hate gardening. Doing the work to
The same,
pull
the
the
same.
weeds and do all of that, it's not fun. And especially because
It's a
I'm
lot.
not.
There's a
Yeah,
there's a
well,
lot.
it's a lot of work, but it's also, I don't know exactly, is this little flower supposed to be there or is it a weed? Do I pull it out or do I leave it here? And so if someone gives me guidance, says, hey, the thing with the purple flowers that you're looking at looks pretty, total weeds, you need to get rid of it. That makes it much easier to maintain my garden. So if
Hmm.
someone does the same for your website and they basically tell you, okay, you should now be doing this, you should now be doing this, and this is something you need to get rid of, that makes the whole maintenance a whole lot easier. Um, and so that's where the philosophy of our plugin comes in as well.
Amazing. I asked this question everybody who's on my show, and if you've seen a couple of my episodes, I'm going to ask you about that also. Where do you think WordPress is going in
Yeah.
the next 5 years, not 2 or 10, considering AI
Yeah.
and what's happening in the world, in the new world of AI?
So if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, when we just started with Gutenberg, um, I would have said, well, Gutenberg is going to be the next big thing and everyone's going to
Mm,
adopt it and be super happy because building websites is becoming so much easier. Um, I'm not sure that's 100% the case today. So
yep.
I'm not sure about my value of predictions, but it's not going away. WordPress is basically too big to fail, given that
Hmm.
40+% of the internet is running on WordPress.
True.
It will stick around for the next at least 5 years, but probably much longer
Decades.
because
Yeah. Decades
yeah,
for sure. I don't think so.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What I do think that's becoming more and more important is that we are stewards of the web. Is
Mm,
that we have a system in WordPress where we are truly open source. We can truly democratize the way things are done. Um, and you've probably seen the FAIR project, which was launched around WordCamp Europe this year.
hmm
And um, I think that is a very
hmm
big step forward to creating a more open
hmm
WordPress.
True.
If we no longer depend on a single repository, but if we can democratize that part of WordPress as well, I think
True.
that would be very good for its future. So it'll stick around and it will move with the web. We'll probably have some AI features. I mean,
Mm.
James LePage and his team are working on amazing stuff now in
They are.
WordPress.
They are
So
indeed.
we'll move with where the web needs us to move. We
Hmm.
just need to do it fast enough, and we need to do it in the
I
open. We
think,
need to
I
truly
think, I think,
democratize.
I think the way code is improving, the way plugins are getting approvals faster now, the way it's becoming more
Yeah,
clean, the way the differentiation is so clear in some way for WordPress.com and .org. I think it needs to become even more clearer now, at least for the general public. We all know because of
yeah,
developers being in WordCamp sector, but for general public, it needs to become more clear. But I think that will be refined over time, for profit, non-profit, whatever.
yeah.
I think, yes, it's pretty cool. And I think companies like yourself, companies like Elementor, especially, which are making one click, ready to rock and roll.
Hmm.
Hosting is available, AI is available, this is available. It's so easy. So yeah, you're right. And I think good quality plugins are, are helping people a lot. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think you're right. It's going to stick around. It's just that it will face a lot of interesting competition. And I think
for
competition
sure.
breeds innovation.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing. I mean, imagine WordPress going away. That means
Mm,
that 40% of the internet needs to switch to a new system.
yes.
Currently, there's no open source software that could take over
Mm,
this role,
hmm.
that has the same benefits WordPress has and has the mass adoption. So, are we going to allow the internet to be fully ruled by for-profit companies?
Mm.
I sure hope not, because then it's not going to be a good place to be. So
True.
I'm a very big fan of open source. Let's invent the wheel together instead of each building our own. And
Got it.
I think WordPress is the system to do that at this moment, at least for the web.
Got it. Got it. And remind me, like you have also organized some local WordCamps also, right? If I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. Have you organized
Yep.
any recently or part of anyone planning to
So
do that?
I'm currently part of the organizing team of WordPress Accessibility Day,
Okay.
which
Well.
is not an official, like it's not a chapter of WordPress community support like all the WordCamps, but
Mm-hmm.
it's an adjacent event that's running for 24 hours, fully online, and all about accessibility. So on the 15th and 16th of October,
Hmm.
depending on what time zone you're in, it will be more on the 15th or more on the 16th. But we'll have 24 hours of amazing talks, uh, and amazing speakers. And we've just announced the
Oh, wow.
first few speakers. Um, so definitely worth checking out. But yeah, I've also been involved with WordCamp organizing. Been organizing the local one in Nijmegen, the closest city
Mm-hmm.
to where I live. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
been part of the WordCamp the Netherlands organization, and I've been part of the WordCamp Europe organization uh,
Got it.
quite a few
So is
years
it
ago already now.
so is it WP Accessibility.day? Is this the one?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I just went on the site and it's October 15th and 16th. Yeah,
Yes,
that's pretty cool.
correct.
I didn't even know about this. So yeah, so our audience should know that WP Accessibility Day. Have a look at the
Absolutely.
website, sign up for the newsletters, stay up to date. Accessibility
Yeah,
is very important, and I'm glad that you are, organizing this, part of the organizing committee there, and educating the world at how important it is to have, accessible websites for
yeah.
sure, no doubt about that. So that's pretty
And I
cool. I
think
love
that
it.
will only get more important as we move forward, because finally legislation is catching up. So
Mhm.
more and more companies will be legally required to have accessible websites, besides the sort of moral requirement they obviously already have, because you don't want to
Oh
exclude
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In the US, for sure, I know some states already have that requirement. People don't even know about it, and they get legal notices, etc. So yes, it's
Yep.
important for people to stay up to date, especially in their own states, the countries, and
Yep.
be up to date. And I also know that you are very active part in the translation part, in Dutch in certain cases, right? So tell us about
Yep.
that.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about WordPress is that it's super global, but the
Yes.
main software is built in US English. So everything in
True.
core, all the texts and everything is in US English.
True.
But a lot of people around the world don't speak English, let alone US
Hmm.
English. So there's a ginormous group of people that is working on translating WordPress and all the themes and all the plugins into a lot of different languages. I think overall there's 100 plus different languages. And so one of those languages is Dutch. And as that is my native tongue, it kind of made sense for me to join that team in the early days. So I've been
Wow.
translating bits and pieces of WordPress for, yeah, 12 years now.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So what in your opinion do you remember any crazy challenge in Dutch?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that we invent a lot of new terms in WordPress,
Okay.
things that don't exist necessarily
You are right.
in
Yes.
spoken language
True.
already. So that
True.
sometimes means that we have discussions on, okay, so how do we create this new concept in Dutch? Because
Good
we've built
point.
something for the web and there is no word for it.
True, very
Um,
true.
the lucky thing for me is that the Dutch are typically quite lazy. So
Okay.
if a word exists in English, we'll just
Hmm.
use the English term and pronounce it in a Dutch way and consider that a new word. But sometimes we actually have to make up new
Oh, I can't
language or
I
work
can't even
around the English.
I can't even imagine how you do that because I my native tongue is Hindi. And if I were to do something like that, of course, like okay is okay only in India, also in
Yeah.
Hindi, for example. But WordPress and technical term, I can't even think. I cannot do that. But hopefully with ChatGPT
Yeah.
now, it becomes better and you can just verify and humanize it for sure. You still have to humanize with any AI translation tool or ChatGPT for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the fun things is that the far majority of translations done on WordPress.org is human translation. So it's an actual native speaker or close to native speaker doing translations for a specific language. And right now, we do have some AI assistants, uh,
Mhm.
but oftentimes you really need a human to understand the correct translation because it might be context dependent as well. And that's
Mhm.
still very hard for AIs to do.
Got it. I have one question which I prepared for you, especially because I went through your site, I went through your blog, etc. You famously embraced the mantra, assume positive intent. So
Hmm.
how is that guided conflict or constructive dialogue in open source, I would say?
Yeah. So um, I think it's mostly it's been used a lot. Assume positive intent has
Yes.
been used a lot in the WordPress community, and
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it originates at Automatic, but I've heard it most from automaticians and people working at Automatic. Um,
Okay.
and while I like it, there's also a downside because
Hmm.
we can't always assume positive intent. Sometimes you have to be clearer and more precise in your communication to make sure that someone doesn't have to assume that you mean something positively, but that they actually know. And this is a burden that's on the sender of a message, whereas assume positive intent is towards the recipient.
I see. Okay.
I mean,
That's pretty cool.
assuming that someone means well is super important, especially when you miss the visual cues and the body
True.
language in a typing situation. So whether that's email or chat or Slack, what have you. But as a sender, you also have that responsibility to make sure that the receiver of your message doesn't have to guess, that they
I
doesn't don't
agree.
have to assume.
I will I will remember this now. API. That's the best way to remember this. Like you mentioned on
Yes.
your blog. It's pretty cool. I like that. I think well said. And I think most of the time a question is really question and it's just not like don't be worried about it. Don't, it
Yeah.
should not be judgmental or something like that. So
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Anyway.
Typically people mean well.
Yes.
That should be
Yes.
your intent. Absolutely. Yeah.
People are generally good. Yes, that should you
Yes.
should assume that.
Absolutely.
Actually, I read that somewhere. eBay, because eBay has this famous review system, and a
Hmm.
buyer is they always take the side of buyers, and this is based on the same philosophy. Also, people are generally good,
Yeah.
and you work in that philosophy. Anyways, we're just coming over time, so I have some fun questions for you. Hot chocolate or black coffee?
Well, I don't drink coffee, so that's a very, very easy one.
Oh wow.
I have
You're in
no idea.
Netherlands. You're in Netherlands and you don't have coffee? Unbelievable. This is one of the
Well,
best coffee, the best coffee in on Holland. I swear to God.
yeah, well, there is a lot of people who like coffee. I have no idea why. I mean, yeah, you pour some water on beans and then you drink it. I don't understand it. So
Oh my God.
that's a very easy hot chocolate.
Oh wow. Wow. Unbelievable. So So I know when I meet you next time, I have to just go to like the best dark chocolate store and just get a coffee instead of a hot chocolate instead
Oh
of
yeah,
black coffee.
absolutely, yes,
You get
yeah,
your energy from meetups, organizing meetups, accessibility day, going to a WordCamp, being at the booth. That's where you are getting your energy from.
yeah. I need to have people around me. I need to talk to people, have those personal interactions. That yeah, I don't need coffee to wake up.
So would you say like 90% of your time is at Progress Planner right now? 80-90% of
Yeah,
your time? Yeah.
yes. About 90% progress planner, and then um, the rest is, well, there's a little bit of Amelia Capital, but that's minor. And then Fair, the Fair project that
Hmm.
is slowly growing, and I feel more comfortable contributing to that nowadays. So, yeah,
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on WP Legends. You're truly a legend. And I see you,
thank you.
I think I'll see you at some WordCamp or some event. You mentioned earlier before we started this recording, you mentioned about some open source event you're going to, right? In
Yes,
Netherlands?
yeah. So on the 25th to the 28th of August, there's the Open Source Summit Europe, which is basically a gathering of a lot of open source projects, most of them under the Linux Foundation, and
Hmm.
they have a huge conference in Amsterdam. So that will be the
Amazing.
first time that I'm going there. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
really
Okay.
looking forward to it, meeting new people, getting to know other open source projects, hopefully learning from them. And I hope I can bring back some of those learnings to WordPress.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on WP Legends. Thank you, Taco. Have a
Thanks
nice
for
one.
having me.
Bye.